Joel Topf here for Nephrology Times. I'm here with Suzanne Watnick, the winner of the Saul Massry Award. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really honored.
So, did you ever meet Dr. Massry?
You know, I didn't, but his legacy precedes him. And I really took a lot of time talking to others who knew him and reading about him before I did the lectureship, and
Nice.
learned a lot and recognized how influential he's been in our field.
Awesome. So, I think a great way to judge an award is just look at the past winners. I'm sure you looked at that, and it is an amazing run of people. Is there any names on that list that particularly caught your eye that may have been inspirations or were important to you, or you felt, my gosh, I can't believe I'm on the same list?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that, and I'm a little tongue-tied right now
That's
to just
fair.
name
Yeah.
people, but I do know that the immediate past winner, Susan Hedayati, specifically did a lot of work and continues to do work about quality of life and depression in patients with chronic kidney disease, and that's been a real passion for me. It's actually what I worked on when I was a fellow, and it makes me feel so good to know that people are winning this award that are really thinking about patients and their well-being.
Perfect. Absolutely. So your talk today, lectureship, started out, and I didn't realize this, that your patient was the very first patient to die of COVID in the United States. What a terrifying thing to have gone through. Like, it's as frightening as it was for everybody to be on that front line. Well, you want to give a couple of words about what that was like? I can't imagine.
Yeah, as we discussed when we talked about it today, I got a phone call. It was 9:00 at night on a Friday. And as we all see on a Friday night, we wonder whether or not to pick up a phone. And fortunately, I picked up the phone. And it was the physician in the ICU at the hospital, and she said, we just got this test back from the CDC, because at that time,
There was no testing?
There was no testing. It was actually the first group of patients to have had their samples sent to the CDC. The person had died that morning, and the result came back that evening. And really, nobody believed it when I started calling around and saying, we need to do something, because the patient that was in our dialysis facility, within 6 feet of everybody, no masking,
Right.
no PPE in particular, passed away. What are we going to do? So it was a time of fear and anxiety. We had no one to really talk to. We had to make it up on the fly. I mean, based on the science that we knew, thinking about a patient-centered approach, knowing that we had an obligation to provide care to our patients. We tried to be good communicators and work with the community to do the best that we could.
Awesome. So I'm going to change gears a little bit.
Sure.
I want to go through, you were talking about use of organs, and you threw a statistic up that I had never seen. It was that patients that die on the wait list have been offered, I think it was 16 previous organs that ultimately did get put into patients, and they never get transplanted, and they die without a transplant.
Yeah.
How is that? How can we live in a world that's allowed to happen?
I expressed that on the podium.
It was a knock me out of my chair moment.
Yeah. So, in this country, the wait list is growing, and we're getting up over 90,000 people waiting for a kidney, with 12 people dying every day. And we are discarding more than ever. The allocation system has changed. We're having more examples of having a harder time to get organs to people. We have to do better for the transplant system. And yes, there are patients on the wait list. And if you look at the patients who are dying on the wait list, that is true. They have a lot of organs given to them, but they have a median of 16 offers of kidneys that ultimately get transplanted in other people. And that is a place where we can do better.
Yeah, and one of the things I thought was really impactful was talking about how other countries have much lower discard rate. And you don't like the word discard, right? What was the term that you used?
I think discard is the most accessible word. So, thinking about kidneys that are discarded, and you look at, for example, across the pond. And so in France, we're talking about 9% discard rates. We're talking about 10 to 12% in the UK. It just tells
And the United
us.
States, it's
And right now it's over 26%. So before the pandemic, it was under 20%. So under 1 in 5 were being discarded, still very high.
Right.
But with the new allocation system that started in 2021, it made it even harder to get kidneys to where they needed to be. You were having relationships that hadn't been formed, not as tight, cold ischemia times went up, and now, as of looking back to 2022, the rate was over 26%, so more than 1 in 4. And so with the new legislation that's come through...
You ended up being very optimistic. You see a lot of causes for hope there?
I do. I'm not saying that it's uniformly optimistic, but I think that with a lot of hard work and attention, we can do better. And so with the Modernization Act, the SUS-OPTN legislation that was passed, as I mentioned, bicameral, bipartisan, when do you get that in the government? They're really looking to increase achievement, meaning get more transplants happening, not just deceased donors, but also living donors. There's a lot of legislation there. Being better with efficiency, so decreasing the discard rate, and doing better with quality. And that is the new model, the mandatory model that's just been proposed May 8th. I mean, we're right here on the cutting edge. So this is a draft proposal. We can make a difference. We can impact what that final mandatory model is going to be if we can comment and work with others to do better for that. So that's where I would focus.
I'm going to one final question.
Yeah.
They mentioned that you were the inaugural, just tell me what it is, with the ASN,
Sure.
the inaugural policy.
I'm serving as the Health Policy Scholar in Residence this year.
Health Policy Scholar in residence in DC? You left Washington?
Well, I am both in the state of Washington and Washington, D.C. week to week. So I spend 1 week in D.C., 1 week in Washington
and you
State.
Still have clinical responsibilities?
I still see patients at the VA every other week. And that helps to ground me. And it's really important.
Yeah. Like we need our policy people to actually be clinicians and are touching patients.
And when I'm talking to people on the Hill or at the HHS building, it really makes a difference to say, I am seeing patients, and this is going to make a difference.
Yes.
So I would just emphasize that as important as it is to be really advocating and doing this policy work, it's important to ground yourself on why we're doing it. And it's because we need to make a difference for our patients.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
This was excellent. I am so glad you're in our corner and in our patients' corners. Amazing.
Thanks, Joel. I really appreciate the time.